everybody, it's the Lawn Gnome, and welcome to another DC animated film live stream. And I am very excited today because we are going to throw a little bit of Halloween into the mix, and there's nothing wrong with that. And one of the most important things is when you want to talk about some good movies that revolve around horror, you got to get some good people to join you for that. Now, of course, usually Bryan from Bryan Lomax Movie Talk shows up for these live streams, but as you guys know, he is dealing with having his new child in his life, with him and his entire family, his daughter, getting to know his son, etc., and everything seems to be going just fine. He was back for the 10th episode, but we have discussed the fact that he will be coming back for 2020 for a whole new bunch of films to discuss. But I'm very thankful that I was able to get a good person to stand in. It is Cami from Cami's Corner. I don't even know why I'm introducing her anymore because she has shown up on my channel so many times. Cami, thanks for coming back. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Well, thanks for having me again, Steve. And I am really excited to be doing this with you because as I've been kind of putting it out there on social media, to be able to talk about DC, but DC with a twist is so cool. So this has really invigorated my spirits and it's really brought back the 12-year-old me. So thanks for having me back for such a cool event.
No, not a problem. And just in case you're new to my channel, as always, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you. But if you have been showing up for a couple of these episodes, you obviously know what we have been doing up until this point. And we are now about to close another volume because we separate these DC animated films into books. It is quite amazing to believe that these specific films have actually been around for over a decade. It is quite incredible that these all began in 2007. So we are officially going to close book 5 and continue on with book 6 of this series of films. And I'm really excited to talk about these 3 specific films just because of the fact that not only do we have some Halloween/horror elements in them, I'm just really excited to talk about the stories and the characters that are involved with these specific stories because we haven't seen many of these characters in these DC animated films up until this point. So we're going to start off with a film that I was very excited to watch, and it was because we were finally going to be getting the Teen Titans in this lineage of films and this specific storyline. And at the same time, what was so interesting was a storyline that began this current DC New 52 storyline with Justice League Flashpoint Paradox. We had the Justice League storyline and we had the Batman storyline. And now, thanks to Justice League versus Teen Titans, these 2 timelines are officially about to converge in a very big way. And another positive thing about this film is that I'm really excited that the Teen Titans are here because I know that the Teen Titans have been part of Bruce Timm's DC world since 2003. One of my favorite things about this specific grouping is the show Young Justice, which, just in case you guys are not streaming DC Universe, the 3rd season is going to be on DVD in November, and I'm so excited to finally get back into that world. But let's talk about Justice League versus Teen Titans. I think the best place to start is where it all begins, and that, of course, is revolving around Damian Wayne, the 4th Robin. He has been assisting the Justice League, of course, alongside Batman as his sidekick, but he doesn't seem to be happy with what he's doing, and he's starting to break a lot of the rules. So Batman has decided, you know something, Damian, it's time for you to learn what it is to be part of a team, and more importantly, it's time for you to associate with a couple of kids that are your age. So he sends them off to the Teen Titans, thanks because of Nightwing. He throws in a favorite from Dick Grayson, and he brings him over to meet the Teen Titans, which is a bunch of teenage superheroes who are starting to learn about their own powers.
And let me be honest with your audience, although I am a DC girl, I am not fully immersed in the world of comics like you are, and of course like Bryan is. So my palette is not as vast, but this was an eye-opener for me in the terms of Robin, because prior to this, I knew Robin in a very different manner. For me, Robin was only exposed to me through Batman cinema, and so I had seen a very different type of Robin. So I was very confused starting off with this movie. I'm like, whoa, 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 hold on. Robin's younger. He's a little nitwit. He's what? The son of Batman? So it took me a minute to kind of wrap my head around things. And I'll be honest, when I was first introduced to him, I was quite annoyed with his character. I was just hoping he would evolve and be, you know, a little bit different. And I grew to love him. He has so many layers to him, and to watch this side of Robin was just so unique.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, considering the fact that we had gotten so many incarnations of Robin, I mean, even in these DC films, we even saw Jason Todd, which I think was very interesting as well. But yeah, Damian Wayne is very different from the previous three Robins, because this is not just the son of Batman, he is also the grandson of Ra's al Ghul. So this is a boy that was brought into this world without a childhood. He was groomed to basically be a conqueror, to dominate, to basically be in control of everything at some point in time. Basically, he has been told that you are going to rule the world. It's like with Ra's al Ghul, it was like Mufasa to Simba saying, everything the light touches is our kingdom and this will all be yours. And let me tell you, he believes wholeheartedly that he has the ability to take on all the major obstacles that he has to fight. And to bring him into a world where there are young heroes that are maybe not necessarily as serious as him. I mean, they all know that they have responsibilities, they all have powers that they're trying to harness, but at the same time, they just also want to be kids. And it's amazing how you see the different dynamics in each of these specific characters when throughout this film they're starting to get to know Damian, and at the same time they're also still trying to get to know themselves.
And that was another unique thing for me going into this movie, is that my only exposure to Teen Titans up to this point had been Teen Titans Go. And that for me was a much more squishier, kind of kid-like approach to the Teen Titans. I never really took them seriously. I honestly just thought they were just kind of you know, I really saw them as a kid's show, a kid's entity. So to see this side of the Teen Titans and the darkness within, it really gave me early X-Men vibes. It brought me back to being 12 again, and you know, really just digging into that universe and seeing that the Teen Titans are so much more than I originally gave them credit for. You know, they are the next generation of superheroes. They are, you know, not only are they teenagers and going through all the teenage, you know, things that we went through as teenagers, the growing up and the changes and the hormones and all of this, but then they possess these unique gifts, and they're trying to figure out, is it for the greater good or is it for the greater evil, while going through all of the things that it means to be a teenager. So such a dynamic and deep storyline, and there's just so much potential for so many more stories to come out of this.
Oh, yes, I totally agree with you. And one of the few things that I think was a real strong point about this film was the dynamics between the characters. Each of them have such great chemistry. Each of them also has a different kind of chemistry with each other. I mean, you've got the clown in Beast Boy. You've got the leader in Starfire. You've got the secluded one who's afraid to open up because of her past in Raven. But probably one of the more interesting characters, and I really wish that they would do more with him, is Jaime Reyes, also known as Blue Beetle. I mean, it's funny because of the fact that Blue Beetle is a name in DC that has been around since the Silver Age of comics. I mean, when you mention Blue Beetle, a comic book fan is going to mention Ted Kord. That is the well-known Blue Beetle in the world of DC. But Jaime Reyes is still relatively new to the world of DC, and Bruce Timm has done so much with this specific character, especially with Young Justice. The second season really revolved around him. And I really wish that they could just give us a movie all about him, because this is a teenager who definitely believes that being a hero is important. But the way that he's gotten his powers is such a difficult thing for him to bear, because he basically has an alien entity latched onto his back. And while he knows that he could use it for the power of good, he has to also know how to control it, because it's got a mind of its own. He quarrels with it. He also tries to make sure that it doesn't do what it's not supposed to do, because if he slips up, this thing can destroy the world. And also, when he goes up against Damien in the beginning of the film, he shows Damien that we may be young, but we know what being a hero is all about, because he almost kills him, which is kind of scary.
Oh, there's so many layers of dark to this, and I think that amongst many other things, I was really drawn to that. I mean, definitely you see that within Blue Beetle, just trying to come into understanding that when he feels certain emotions, that scarab kind of comes out within him. But each of the Teen Titans are dealing with that in their own way. They're trying to come into that power and learn how to suppress it when it needs to be suppressed, and utilize it to the maximum when it needs to be brought out. And again, also, do I use it for good or do I use it for evil? Because I think that in the midst of all of this, a lot of these teen characters have very dark pasts, whether they're kind of distant from their families, or there's a really dark family dynamic there. And it's almost as if these teens were brought to the centralized hub to save them from the places that they came from and make those powers good instead of evil. So to watch them come into that power, and then just to kind of see from the sidelines, basically, because you definitely see more of a family dynamic with Blue Beetle versus like say Garfield, where there is no family element there, but you do still see him trying to come to terms with his power and try to make it work for him and not be awkward. But then you have to remember, in the back of your mind, he is an awkward teenager. So if you were a teen with a superpower, wouldn't you kind of try to check the different layers of it and see how it works for you too?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think you can get someone who is more concerned or confused about harnessing her power than Raven, because alongside this movie really revolving around Damien learning to be a team player and at the same time also just being a kid, we're introduced to Raven, who is also someone who grew up too fast, because she was always living in darkness. I mean, when your father is Trigon, in this case the DC's version of Satan, it's very hard to lead a normal children's life, just because of the fact that you do have the Prince of Darkness as your father, who really is wanting to just destroy and conquer everything in his path. So for Raven to not only break away from him, but also have the ability to even defeat him in combat to prevent him from getting his way, I don't think you could ask or even want any more responsibility than that.
Oh no, I mean, like we were talking about earlier, this movie really does center around Robin in the beginning, but then you also get that different storyline of Raven in the end. And so for me, just the evolution of seeing Robin in a different way, I really found that, in the beginning, like I said, I found him to be a very irritating little teenager, but he's very intellectual. He has a lot of components of him that you see brought up often, where he'll refer to literature, or he'll refer to poetry, or there's this constant battle within his own psyche of comparing things like, faith to just knowledge, so he's very in tune to his surroundings. And with Raven, I think that the dynamic of the two of them worked so well, and I just love the beauty of how the friendship came together. She, in and of herself, is such a hero for breaking away from her dark past. I mean, watching that unfold and then going back to where she came from and seeing the pure evil that Trigon is. I mean, to call your daughter a bitch. I mean, come on, that is just unbelievable. I was blown away. I was like, hold on, I actually had to rewind and then, you know, go, hold on, did I hear that correctly? Did he just call his own daughter a bitch? You know, bless her heart, she got out of there and she survived, and she's so strong. And it's just I mean, the two main characters to come together the way that they did, and to see their storylines not only mesh but be so different and standalone. Again, I cannot praise DC enough about, you know, making more of these films and really concentrating uniquely on each of these characters, because it would be amazing to see each of these Teen Titans in their own films.
Yeah, and I actually feel that because of the things that they're involved in, and they really all have such deep stories. I mean, considering the fact that we have seen a lot of the major DC characters already get their own solo project films, I think that to a certain degree, we have seen Damian in his own films because we have gotten a great deal of him in the DC world already. And the best part about him is when you put him in these Batman films, they really are more about him than they are of Batman. But there's also another story that sort of unfolds in here. It's a smaller story, but I think it's a really nice one. And that's the whole story that revolves around Cyborg. Because just in case you didn't know, Cyborg goes all the way back to the film Justice League War, where he is first created. And he is also still learning his powers, but he is on the team with the big boys. He's with Superman, he's with Wonder Woman, and Batman, and the Flash, and he just doesn't seem to feel like he's in the right place. I mean, I think one of the best parts of the movie is when he comes to the Hall of Justice and he brings pizza for everybody, and everybody looks at him and they think that he's out of his mind. But then later on in the film, towards the end, he comes to the Teen Titans headquarters and he brings them pizza, and they say he's the man. And I think that that's such a heartwarming thing. I mean, I would love to see Cyborg be alongside the Titans more if they choose to make more Teen Titans films in this library, because it was really nice to see, you know, I may be a little bit older, but I still feel that I don't belong with this group. I still feel that I need a lot of work to do on myself, and to do so, I need to be with other people who are also trying to still learn how to develop themselves as heroes and also understand their powers, regardless of age.
Oh, but I think that storyline works so well because, I mean, for me personally, following the Justice League as I have, I've always seen Cyborg as kind of the younger element to the Justice League. You know, the one that he doesn't have as much experience. He's kind of always second guessing, you know, his purpose. I mean, we've even seen him, you know, question whether or not he should even exist. So to see him kind of have a purpose and have a connection to these teens, it almost gives him that big brother element, and I think it works so well. And that pizza, you know, scene that you're mentioning transitions so well in the end, because it was kind of like the big brother, you know, hanging out with the kids on a Friday night. And you know, I just see him as having so much potential to relate to these kids and to give these kids purpose and to help them understand their calling as superheroes and really figure out the best place mentally for them to be. So I think that was a perfect dynamic to this story.
Right. And I think what was also really nice about this film was, considering that we've had a lot of films previously that were very much on the dark side, even though this film does have a lot of dark tones to it, there are so many great lighthearted moments that really lift your spirits and just put a smile on your face. I mean, my favorite part of this film is when they're at the fairgrounds and Damian challenges Beast Boy to the Dance Dance Revolution game. I think it's really funny how Damian actually becomes a pretty quick study and actually beats him, which I thought was pretty humorous. And I also really appreciated the encouragement of Starfire. She's like, yes, we must go out and we will have fun. And I also like the scene where Robin and Raven are sharing a cotton candy and they're talking about each other's past and starting to get to know each other. It's just really nice to actually see that it takes something like going to a carnival to really open up, especially considering the fact that Raven and Robin are the two that really do keep to themselves. And because of the fact that the two of them met and became friends, they actually opened up and grew as people in this film, which I thought was a really nice thing to see.
Yeah, that carnival scene that you're referencing, actually both of those, the Dance Dance Revolution dance off really brought nostalgic feels for me, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. And that really gave me that, that feel on Robin where you sense that he's kind of programmed in a way. He's very in tune to making sure he's paying attention to all the details, and he's taking notes, and he's always looking for that challenge. And so to me, he saw that as a challenge. Okay, I got it, challenge accepted, I got this. But it was also a way, maybe not cognizant to him or to even Garfield, that they were making a connection. They were becoming friends through this. It was kind of, pushing him down a notch, but it was also allowing Robin kind of a step in to say, I do belong here. And then when he and Raven are kind of back and they're, playing the toss game, you see that softer side of Damien, where he is able to kind of find purpose within the group. He wins the prize. You see him give that winning sword to the little girl, and even he kind of for a moment looks at him, and then he looks at Raven like, what, like it's not a big deal. And then they share the cotton candy. So it does help to kind of give you a breather, because these movies are really dark. They really are. And you can easily get sucked into the darkness. And that's strange coming from me, I know. But to see cartoons in this way was very eye-opening for me. So to have little elements like that kind of gives a humanity to these characters, gives that yin to the yang of each of these superheroes.
Yes, absolutely. And also, what was very interesting about this movie is this was actually one of the first films that Andrea Romano, who had been working with Bruce Timm and all of these people that gave us DC animation, she had officially retired at this point in time. So she was replaced by Wes Gleason, who is now doing the voice direction for all the current DC projects. It was a little bit easier for him because a lot of the cast has returned for this specific film. I mean, this was your first time seeing these films. What did you think of Stuart Allen voicing Robin? Because he has been voicing this version of Robin since he has first appeared in these films in Son of Batman. I personally think he's a fantastic voice actor. I love him.
Oh yeah, he's very believable, and for me that's so important on the side of animation. You've got to get the voice right, because it really does add a layer to a character that you look for, because these films are usually in a sequence or in a series, or you have, where you'll revisit characters down the line in someone else's storyline. That familiarity of that voice is so important, and sometimes it really does create the character. It's very easy to make this three-dimensional character, but the voice gives it life. I say that often with audiobooks. That you can tell me a story, but if your voice is flat, it's not going to mean anything to me. I'm going to easily just delete that story because you're not engulfing me. You're not exciting me in any way, or making me want to continue on. But when you've got that perfect voice, you're like, oh, okay, I get this character now. Okay, where's this character going? It becomes very juicy.
Yeah, and they also had a new bunch of actors coming in to voice all the Titans. I mean, you got Carrie Walgren, who voices Starfire. You've also got Brandon Suhu, who plays Beast Boy. You got Jake T. Austin, who has done some voice work in the past. He came to voice Blue Beetle. And we also had John Bernthal, who played the Punisher in the Marvel Netflix show. He played Trigon. That was definitely a good choice of voice casting for him. And it was also a couple of people who we've already seen, like I said before, but it was definitely a decent film, except for one thing that I didn't really like. The name of the title was very off-putting, because it really isn't a Justice League versus Teen Titans film, because is there a battle between the Justice League and the Teen Titans in this movie? Yes, there is. But it is just a few of them, and it's because they are possessed by devils. So they're not really going up against the Teen Titans as the Justice League, but you understand why they give this a title, because this is basically the ultimate test to see, can we come together as a team? Have we mastered our powers enough to stand up with these people who we've idolized? And what is exactly going to happen? And luckily, the outcome of it is positive, but the title of the film is really not the driving force of this film. It's really more of a character-based building story and a little bit more of some other characters and just seeing the Teen Titans in this animated world that has been created since Justice League Flashpoint Paradox. That was the only downside of the movie for me. I mean, it's good. I mean, it's not the best of these that I have seen, but you have so many to catch up on, so I don't really know if you can make that judgment call or not. But as someone who has been watching these films since Superman Doomsday, I can tell you that while it is a good ride, it is definitely not one of the best.
Well, I'll be honest. I mean, even though you're absolutely right, I have a ton of movies to catch up on. But yeah, the title is misleading, and I was in some way expecting some epic battle between the Justice League and the Teen Titans. But I think this is very similar to the deep dives that I do on my channel when it comes to literature. And I think it worked out kind of perfectly for me to start here with this film, because you really do have to be vested in these characters and the storyline to kind of get the reasoning behind that title. And you have where Trigon's minions do get inside the Justice League and they possess them with these demonic shadows. But in essence, that really is, you touched on it, where the battle begins, because those demonic shadows could have easily taken over the Justice League and they would have never recovered. Because keep in mind, they go back to Trigon or Raven's homeland, and the demonic shadows, the minions could have easily just kept them there. There would have been no plea to bring them back home, and then we would have only had Cyborg back, in the Justice Hall. But this is a real testament to, do the Teen Titans want to do what they're called to do, and that is to be superheroes, because in essence they had to step up their game and be the superheroes to save the superheroes. And we see that at the end of the film, where Wonder Woman looks at the Teen Titans and says, hey, guess what, guys? Thank you. You saved the world. And that was so important for her to say that, because that was the boost of confidence that those kids needed to say, hey, maybe we do have a purpose. And maybe that was pretty cool,
Yeah. And as you can obviously tell, this was definitely not going to be the last time that we would see the Teen Titans. I don't know if you watched through the credits, but we got a post-credit scene.
Yes, I did. I saw that. So
yes.
That's all good things. And that gave me hope for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a feeling that that was exactly what we were going to get when it came to a post-credit scene, because this one specific character has shown up as a mystery in the Teen Titans world since we've even seen them in Bruce Timm's mindset and animation since 2003. But I'm going to rate this film, honestly. I'm going to give it a strong 3 stars out of 4. It's definitely enjoyable, but as I said, I don't think that it is one of the best.
Well, you know me, I'm old school. I do the thumbs up, thumbs down from the Siskel and Ebert days. So I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I think it was definitely worth watching. I think it was good to give you some history on the characters, and to give you some backside to kind of that camaraderie that really brought the Justice League and the Teen Titans together. But yeah, overall, I mean, it wasn't the best film I've ever seen, and I do think there was some plot holes in it, but it was definitely worth seeing. So thumbs up.
Right. So we get the sequel next, and that, of course, is Teen Titans Judas Contract. Now, this is a title that has a real history when it comes to the creators of Batman the Animated Series, etc. This movie was supposed to come out years before this library was even incepted. They were planning on making this title with the 2003 version of the Teen Titans, but it never got off the ground. So when I found out that they were finally bringing the Teen Titans title, the Judas Contract, finally into animation and brought to life, I was like, oh my God, thank goodness. I really hope that this is all the anticipation, because there are so many people who have been watching the Teen Titans and watching all of Bruce Timm's work saying, are we ever going to see Teen Titans, the Judas Contract? Well, we get it. And it definitely picks up where Justice League versus Teen Titans leaves off. I mean, we have the cast back. We also have the new character, Terra, who is voiced by the brilliant Christina Ricci, which was making me very, very happy. And I think the part that I got really happy about was the opening sequence when the Teen Titans in their original lineup meets Starfire for the first time, because they got some voices from the original 2003 show to reprise their role. So we got the original voice of Robin, the original voice of Speedy, the original voice of Kid Flash from 2003, and the whole scene with Beast Boy and the Twitter thing, like, that was what the Teen Titans used to be. So it was a nice little breath of nostalgia at the beginning. You know, the bright colors, the fun jokes thrown out. I loved it. I loved that opening. I really did.
Yeah, for me, I was a little kind of confused at first, but then it really brought the element of the Teen Titans that I was acquainted with Teen Titans Go, and then the Teen Titans that I had just watched. So I thoroughly enjoyed this opening far more than I did the other one. I'll be honest, about 30 minutes to really get into Justice League versus Teen Titans before I was like, okay, this is starting to pick up and go somewhere. I was completely vested from one in this storyline.
And I think one of the best parts about this film is the fact that all of the characters that were pretty much in the background in the first film now get their chance to shine. I mean, there is a fantastic story that revolves around Beast Boy. The whole thing about him trying to convince the girl to like him is without a doubt, even though he is the clown of the group, there is a great deal of charm to Garfield, and I love how hard he tries to get Terra to like him, which is just absolutely adorable. You also have a very good story with Blue Beetle. Unfortunately, I still feel that we lacked a little bit with him, but it was really nice to see his dynamic with his parents, the fact that he doesn't just want to do good as a superhero, he wants to do good as a human, and how he's trying to keep the Scarab under control while he's not donning his superhero costume. I really liked that. And okay, the whole dynamic between Nightwing and Starfire. I mean, I still cannot get over the fact, I mean, this is a PG-13 film, but the scene in the beginning when Nightwing tells Starfire, it's time to show that move that I taught you, and then she's like, not with the team present. Like, I thought that that was really funny. I love it when they actually try to put some sexual tension into these characters. It's something that you just feel a little bit uncomfortable with at the beginning when it comes to animation, but the best part about these guys is they do it with such taste, and you get a good laugh out of it too. I think one of the few things that I liked between Nightwing and Starfire was there were a lot of moments where you laughed, because even though they were working together to work on continuing to grow this team as a unit, they were trying to work on their relationship, because the funny thing is, they are the older people in the group, they are the mentors, but they're still growing as people.
Yeah, and I think that was a great dynamic, and you're absolutely right. For me, that was kind of cringeworthy. I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this, but in essence, I mean, they did it tastefully, and that's why a big reason that I don't follow anime or anything like that, because I really do have a hard time sexualizing animation. It's very awkward for me to read and to see and to watch, these characters be developed in voluptuous ways or drawn in voluptuous ways. So, I was a little concerned where they were going with that storyline, but it worked. It worked very well because, like you're saying, Starfire and Nightwing were really developed relationship, but they're also very cognizant of the fact that the leaders of these teenagers have to lead by example and set good, positive, healthy examples. But you do see, you know, like where she's burning food in the kitchen and you know, kind of trying to be that doting girlfriend, and you see that awkwardness of, oh, you know what, I failed miserably at this. Apparently I didn't learn this in my hometown, so, or my home planet, so you're gonna have to bring home takeout, you know. So that's a cute element. But then on the lighter end of things, you also have that relationship to Beast Boy and Tara, and just again that awkwardness of being a teenager and still with who you're and that gift that you possess. And so to I guess this is for that there would be a character that would have such a dent to them that they would feed on the dark side, you know, that they were really just drawn into the dark, and Tara really got that for me.
Right. And another character that shows up in this is no surprise when it comes to the Teen Titans. It's just not the Teen Titans if you don't bring in Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke. And I didn't actually realize this, but this was actually the last time that Miguel Ferrer actually lent his voice to the world of Warner Brothers and DC, because he passed away earlier that year. So this was one of his last things that we ever received from him. So it was definitely nice to see a nice tribute, especially the fact that he has voiced so many DC characters, and this was such a great one. But I will also say that one of the things I didn't like, and it's a really big problem for me with the movie, I really did not care for the villains in this film. I think that the main character, Brother Blood, who is connected with the Hive, dare I say it, I felt like I was watching a Marvel movie half the time, because this character was just not developed in the slightest. And the whole role that Deathstroke has in this is just, to me, I don't know about you, but he felt very out of place for me, especially when we see what his connection to Tara is in this film, which is extremely creepy. But we knew what his role and his dynamic with Damian was, because you, unfortunately, will have to see The Son of Batman in order to understand a little bit more about the character development between Robin and Deathstroke.
Yeah, for me, Brother Blood just didn't do it for me as a villain. I was hoping for a lot more, especially when one of his opening scenes is him bathing in a pool of blood of the reporter that he killed, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, yeah, this is going to be a strong villain. And he was just weak. I didn't see a lot from him. I didn't see a lot of, as you said, character development. The little, what was it, Mother Mayhem? Is that what her name was?
Yeah.
What have you, that I guess, is that what they were, brother and sister? Or
yeah, something like that.
Because
yeah,
it was just awkward to me. It just felt very forced. And I'm sorry, but the storyline between Deathstroke and Tara was disgusting. That was, to me, like one step shy of pedophilia.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, because Tara, in essence, I'm sure she is, you know, maybe 18, I don't know, but she's a teen, and that's what you're passing her off as. And she's throwing herself at this older man, and, you know, granted, he didn't take the advances. I mean, you see very early on, he's like, oh, we'll get there, which is good. They saved it from being too creepy. But, you know, you still get that element that it could potentially be coming. I'm glad it never evolved into that, because, ew, I don't think I could have watched that. But it did play into his overall outcome, which was to set her up anyhow. So, you know, I give DC the credit. It did work out in the end. But, yeah, it was very cringeworthy to watch from the beginning.
Yeah, I definitely have to give them a lot of props, because they pushed a lot of bars. I mean, they have done that many times with these films. But I think that one of the biggest weaknesses that they have is that when they really try to push the bar further than they have before, I don't know why, but they always seem to miss the mark. And maybe not always, but definitely most of the time. Unfortunately, they did a horrible job with The Killing Joke when they tried to bring that adaptation to film. And this time around, they also, just with the whole dynamic between Terra and Deathstroke, it was a terrible thing to see a great place where they started not really capture the same magic as a whole that they got with the first one. I mean, don't get me wrong. There is a great deal of stuff to really enjoy in this film. I mean, I love that at the very end, we actually do get a character death, which is something that we don't usually see, even in animation as a whole. I mean, yeah, in the world of Disney, characters die, but you never actually truly see them die. You see the body sometimes, but this time we actually not just see death, but we see grief and we see mourning. And I think the best part is at the very end when Beast Boy basically gets the last line of the film, where he is getting interviewed by none other than Kevin Smith. I love that Kevin Smith is playing himself in this movie, but I love what Beast Boy says. Like, he really bears his soul to the world when it comes to how he truly felt about Terra.
Yeah, Tara's demise in the end, I mean, we might as well call it what it was. It was a suicide, you know?
Yeah.
She took her own life. And I really think that, again, that played into the darkness of her soul. I don't think that she really, truly ever got over what got her there in the first place. I mean, you see all these visions that she has leading up to that final moment, and it just, the darkness, it never left her. And it could have really worked in her favor, but there are those characters, there are those superheroes that possess this power that never really learn how to control it. And I honestly felt from the beginning that she was never going to get a hold of it. Part of me was kind of hoping for greatness, you know, because of the fact that the Teen Titans were very aware of her being able to control her powers through her dreams. You know, she would almost cause earthquakes through her very vivid dreams. But all of these past memories that she would bring up were just so crushing, soul crushing. And I didn't ever see her recovering. I didn't expect her to take her own life, but I think in the end that was a powerful message, because, and I know this is going to sound kind of disgusting to say it this way, but it's animation, so I kind of feel I'm okay here. It was her way of taking it all back. It was a way of controlling the dark. It was a way of saying, you know what, all this really shitty things have happened to me, and you don't get to win. I get the final say so. And so I'm just going to go out the way that everybody tried to take me out, or for the reason people tried to take me out, because I'm different, because I'm, you know, because I possess these powers. So yeah, it was hard to watch, but yes, in the end, when Beast Boy had that amazing interview with Kevin Smith, which was top notch there for me as well, you did see that element of him also kind of becoming human for a minute and giving into that, because we, at least for me, I saw that in the first film with Robin and with Raven. They had their moment of clarity, and you kind of saw the goodness in them, and I think this was Beast Boy's way of doing that. And it also validated the Teen Titans as a whole. You know, you really got that opportunity to see him say, we do have a purpose, you know, we are here for a reason. And he didn't try to glorify them, he tried to humanize them, and I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the movie definitely has some good moments. It's definitely got some excellent action sequences, but I think it's basically somewhere in the middle for me, because there is a balance of really good and not so great. I'm really curious to see where this story will go, because one of the few things that I was really happy about was the fact that at the end, while they did lose a teammate, they did gain a teammate in Wonder Girl. We didn't see her say anything, but I'm hoping that there will be another film in this storyline, and I'm hoping that we will see Wonder Girl get her day in the sun, because she is another DC character that we have seen animated recently. She showed up in Young Justice for the very first time as an animated character in this world, so I'd really like to see more. And also, I'd like to see the team grow as well, because there are still so many characters that are linked to the Teen Titans that we could see great potential of, like Aqualad, and I would love to see Cyborg. I'd like to see what his role will be later on in this specific story, and I'd like to see if what happened, we actually did get a incarnation of Superboy in a future film. I'd like to see if he joins the Teen Titans as well. That would be pretty cool. But I would definitely say that this is definitely not as strong as the first one, so I would give it a 2.5 stars out of 4.
I think I'm going to stick with my 1 thumb up. I mean, it was good. It had some, definite good qualities to it. For me, though, in the potential villainous scene, when we're kind of seeing the demise of Brother Blood, it was predictable. I knew that what is it, Nighthawk? Is that what the character's name is? Nightwing. I knew he was coming because he hadn't come full circle. He hadn't made his appearance, even though Deathstroke was saying, to, I guess, kind of set the scene or make the scene, he's not coming back. But I'm like, no, wait a second. There was no scene. There was nothing that led up to that you killed him. So he's coming and he's going to destroy this scene. And I'm sorry, but Brother Blood is not going to make it through this. So it was predictable to me. But, I think the most surprising element for me as a person of DC was the relationship between Wonder Woman and Superman. That threw me for a loop because I know you're very comic book versed, and that was no surprise to you, but I'm used to Superman and Lois Lane, so I was like, whoa, hold on, Wonder Woman and Superman are a thing, So again, there was so many surprises for me, and that was definitely one of them.
Yeah, the Superman relationship with Wonder Woman is a DC New 52 thing, but I will let you know, there are more movies on this story afterwards, so you'll definitely see how this whole thing unfolds. But yes, the Superman-Wonder Woman relationship is an actual thing in the comics, and quite frankly, you and I being Kevin Smith fans and know the movie Mallrats, doesn't it just make more sense?
It does. So, I mean, I wasn't completely thrown aback, but I mean, it did, just kind of put me in a different mind space because I kind of saw it the whole time, but it wasn't until he comes through and sweeps her up and she's like, oh, this is just like the movies. And I was like, oh yeah, they are kind of making this a love thing. But I do think that the introduction of Wonder Girl was kind of DC's way of, saying, hey, we're sorry about Tara, but, hey, we're bringing you a new character, so let us put some, shining light on this dark cloud that we've created. And I definitely think that there's room to bring her back as a developing character. So yeah, overall, it's a strong movie. I liked it much better than Justice League versus Teen Titans, but I still only give it 1 thumb up because the villainous scene wasn't that strong for me.
Okay, so we have tackled going to hell and dealing with demons. We have dealt with murderous cults. But now we've got another film to discuss. And this one, there is a great deal to talk about because this is Justice League Dark. So this is a film that takes place after Justice League Throne of Atlantis. Same thing with Justice League versus the Teen Titans. They pretty much are within this time frame, one after the other. And first of all, we get a great scene right off the bat. The Justice League against the Legion of Doom. And you've got all these great heroes fighting all of these great villains, and then something happens to Weather Wizard. He gets possessed. And basically the Justice League, which has also grown itself because we got John Stewart, that version of Green Lantern, on the team now. Hawkman is on the team now. And Martian Manhunter is on the team now as well. And they're all saying this we're going to have to deal with is magic. And Batman is not too happy about that because he's not a big fan of magic. But the most important thing is he knows who to seek out to deal with these kinds of issues. So he reaches out to a very interesting bunch of characters. let's talk about those characters and this movie in general, shall we?
Oh, this movie was huge eye-opener for me because, again, I was familiar with some of the character names, but I wasn't really sure where they played into this universe. So right off the bat, John Constantine was huge for me. Of course, you know, Batman trying to find his way into this whole thing of magic and having Z come into play, or Zatanna. I mean, it was just pure black magic right from the start. So there was just so many elements to this movie, and I think for me the biggest one was Constantine, because I really never understood his character. I'll be honest, I've never seen any of the movies. What is it? I can't think of the actor's name.
Okay, well,
uh,
we had Keanu Reeves as Constantine in a
there you
film.
go, Keanu Reeves. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never seen any of the Keanu Reeves Constantine, so I don't know if that's the same dynamic in the comics.
Well, the thing about this specific incarnation of Constantine, Constantine was a character from the DC Vertigo comics. The comic was the original name of the comic was Hellblazer, but when it came to putting him into film or putting him on television, Constantine seems to be more appetizing. So there was a short-lived Constantine TV show as part of the DC Arrowverse that is very prominent on the CW now. But the biggest problem was that show originally aired on NBC. And as far as I'm concerned, that show just didn't fit on NBC. But it did star Matt Ryan as John Constantine. And Matt Ryan as John Constantine is fantastic. So, what do you do if people love this specific version of Constantine? Why, you ask Matt Ryan, would you voice Constantine for us in Justice League Dark? And he obviously said, hell yes. So we get Matt Ryan back as Constantine. And I don't care what anybody says. He makes that character so much fun to watch. He is brash. He is cheeky. He knows his stuff. He is a mess and together all at the same time. But he is just such a great character to watch, especially when Matt Ryan is the voice that gives this character life.
And I think that's why I was so drawn to him, is because of the voicing. And again, we spoke about this in the previous film, is that the voice character really brings the animation to life. And if you get the right voice actor, it really adds such a different dynamic to it. And I think that's why I paid attention to him and why he was such a standout character for me. So yeah, hands down, he was probably my favorite. But I really did love Batman's attitude throughout this film, because he's just so irritated the entire film, and he's always walking around with such a dark cloud above his head, and you know, you're always getting that from him, but it's so funny. And there was a beautiful element when Orchid kind of takes in the scene and she's introduced to Batman for the first time, and she's like, you know, trying to figure out the aura of everybody, and she looks at Batman and she's like, you exude pain. Your life is a patchwork of blackness with no time for joy. How do you cope with it? And he's like, I have a butler. And I'm like, oh my God, that's fantastic. You know, it was just, this movie, hands down, I mean, there wasn't a character that didn't work, and they all fit so well together.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny because it's funny to see how uncomfortable Batman is amongst these heroes, but at the same time, I say to myself, this is his ilk. Like, he belongs with these people, alongside John Constantine, the Demon, Deadman, Zatanna. I mean, he's even got a relationship with Zatanna. I mean, two of them have been friends since childhood. So the fact that he can't even find solace in these people is just, I guess that's what makes the dynamic of Batman such a great thing. And I mean, we also get Jason O'Mara back to voice Batman, who has been voicing Batman since Justice League War. And I will say, he's really come such a long way. If you ever get the chance to see Justice League War, and you hear his voice performance as he moves along, especially when he gets to this point, he really feels like he's one of the best versions of Batman. And he definitely takes a lot of the mannerisms of some of the voices of Batman who came before him. He's definitely trying to search for his inner Kevin Conroy, and he does a good job in this one. But the entire cast is great. I think that Deadman is such an interesting character. Zatanna is such an interesting character. I think that's what makes these specific heroes so interesting, is because there's so many interesting pieces to these characters. Their origins are so diverse. Their characteristics are so diverse. And the fact that they're all able to work together as a unit, they're constantly butting heads. It's a miracle that they managed to do so.
It's funny, you keep taking the words out of my mouth. It's like you say it right as I'm thinking it too, because I said the same thing about Batman. Justice League Dark is exactly where Batman needs to be because it fits his aura so perfectly. And honestly, I think he's irritated because this is the first time, and people have said this to me my entire life, because Batman has always been my favorite superhero. And I say it with quotations because we all know he possesses no superpower. He's got gadgets. He's a really rich guy with a lot of cool gadgets. But the thing is I think that becomes very apparent to him hanging out with all of these dark characters, is that he knows, you know what, I'm just kind of an average super. He's got to make himself fit to the dynamic. And so you see that in the hospital, you know, you see him kind of say, you know what, screw this. I'm here now. I've got to make this work. I've got to make my purpose known. And so he just kind of jumps on it. I don't think he really wants to at any point ever really help John Constantine, but he's really doing it for Z the whole time because, you know, as you said, they have such a dynamic and a relationship that goes back so far. It's like he owes it to her. So to watch that unfold and to see Swamp Thing in there was,
yeah, I think that they need to do more. Yeah, I think they need to do more with Swamp Thing, unfortunately. I don't think we got enough of Swamp Thing, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think what's so interesting about the fact that these characters really, like we said, Batman belongs with them. They're all so much like him. Like, they all feel better when they work alone. That's what's so interesting about them all. I mean, I love where we first see Constantine, the fact that he's playing a poker game with the Demons 3. And I don't know about you, but there's something about giving a British accent to a demon that makes them so much fun to watch on screen.
You're talking to a girl who loves Buffyverse.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to me, British and demons go hand in hand.
Yeah, and I also really liked that a lot of this film also revolves around Jason Blood's story, because I always knew who the demon was, but I never really got the true origin story of the demon. And it was very interesting that this was also a very reluctant piece of this specific character. Like, he didn't want to be a part of it, but they knew that he had to be there because they needed the muscle. And that's another thing that I like about it, because Constantine gets under his skin so badly. Like, he literally is like Tony Stark trying to get Bruce Banner to Hulk out, because he knows that we need the big guy. So he tries so hard, because he will never be able to get Swamp Thing to be their muscle. The Swamp Thing is an entity all on his own. But he knows that the demon can help. And I also really like the fact that even though the demon is, you know, this big hulking monster, he's a true thespian, because he speaks in rhyme and he's proper when he's fighting. It's just something that's so interesting to me.
Yeah, it gives his character quite a bit of character, and it really does give him that set apart from everybody else. But yeah, that's a great comparison, you know, where I see the dynamic, and I think that works so well with so many characters in this movie, where they're, although like you said, they're all very individual and they prefer to work alone, the combination of some of these characters at just the right moments does such amazing things for this film and really carries it through, because there's so many scenes that it just wouldn't work if both of those characters weren't on screen. So yeah, the dynamic of the character evolution is really outstanding in this film, and there's just so many elements of humor. And it, you know, I mentioned Buffyverse earlier, but this did give me Buffy feels. It really did, because that's one of the big reasons why I'm such a fan, even to this day, of Buffy and that universe, because it had such an incredible way of bringing in pop culture and humor into this demonic world, and it just works so well. And I'm blown away by this film.
Yeah, and I mean, after Batman the Killing Joke came out, that was the first time that these films got an R rating. So when these guys have a landmark like that, I always say to myself, well, where are they going to go from here? So Justice League Dark comes out pretty much I think it was the next film that came out after The Killing Joke. Let's give the fans another rated R movie. And let me tell you something, they really let us know that this movie is an R-rated film, especially right in the very beginning when you see those average people possessed by demons. You have everything from people getting run over by cars to a woman throwing a newborn baby off a roof. Like, it's very scary. Some of the imagery in this film is very much not child friendly. And that's another reason why I really appreciated when they try to go these ways. Like, I talked about how they were having an issue this time pushing the bar. I feel that this time they did try to push the bar, and they got it right this time.
100% agree with you. I mean, again, loving horror the way that I do, you know, I embrace every element of it. I was taken aback. I actually had to pause the film for a moment and go, holy shit, what am I watching? You know, I mean, that was creepy. And to get that kind of element of horror out of animation, that gives it two very enthusiastic elements to just keep pushing forward and just keep wanting more. You know, I really see this as being a very profitable line for DC if they keep making these rated R films, because it is not only testing the waters, but it's really testing us as fans. You know, how dark can we get? You know, how dark are these characters, and what else can they do? And yeah, I mean, when the woman, you know, just a regular civilian is running over human bodies, just it's like, whoa. And then the newborn, yeah, the newborn definitely takes you to a whole nother level. It's like, oh shit, okay, I am watching what I think I'm watching. Thank God Batman saved the day, though, you know. But yeah, it's a very dark film, and I agree 100%. They got it right all the way.
And what did you think about the villains in this movie? Because I don't think that we really had enough time for the specific villains to shine in this film, but that's also because of the fact that we have a lot of them in this movie. Because when it comes to the world of magic in DC, especially when it comes to the villains, there are certain names that come to mind. Like, we got Felix Faust. Felix Faust is one of the big villains in the DC world of dark magic. Destiny is another big name in the world of dark magic. I think the issue that we had with the villains was not necessarily their presence. I just feel that there were just too many villains, and that's also due to the fact that the positive thing was there were a lot of plot twists. I think that the elements that they use in regards to those plot twists were really well done, but I wish that we would have gotten a little bit more time to see these villains develop. I mean, Felix Faust has shown up in the DC Animated Universe before. He has shown up in a couple of episodes of Justice League, but that's a kid-friendly show. You know, I want to see some of these villains go just as dark as their hero counterparts.
Oh yeah, for me, Faust was actually the least terrifying of all the villains, to be honest. And let me just say, anytime Merlin makes an appearance, that's an A++ for me. I absolutely love Merlin, and to have him in there and to have him do what Merlin does best, which is not come in as this dark entity, but he comes in as this ray of light in the darkest of times, and it just makes sense. And so for me, I don't think I needed such an impactful powerful villain presence in the sense that I needed these characters to have developing storylines that had endings. I think that because the movie overall was so dark, just having their presence and having them be a piece of this very dark world was enough for me. You know, Faust, I liked the fact that he made an appearance, but you know, we all know that he is very sought after, so having him there was just expected. I really enjoyed Richie's character though. I think for me, he was probably my favorite villain because I didn't see him come. I honestly did not see that storyline developing. I was feeling sorry for him. I was giving, you know, compassion because of the development of his cancer. And I'm like, man, this guy just got the short end of the stick. And I was like, oh, wait, this is about to take a turn. So for me, he was my favorite villain of the whole film.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like I said, they gave us a lot of twists, and it was like so funny because especially when it comes to the heroes that we have, like we really don't know if they really are heroes or if they're anti-heroes or if they're villains. We don't really know. And the same thing can be said about the villains. Like everything just takes you by surprise. There's a lot of really good elements of surprise in this film, and that's a really big driving force of this movie. But then again, when it comes to anything in the world of horror, fear and surprise are the two emotions that run rampant when you're watching a movie with those kinds of themes.
What kind of human being am I? Because I was digging that, you know, kind of these storylines that you couldn't make out. This the hero? Is this the villain? You know, is this the freaking antichrist? And I'm loving all of it, you know, and I questioned my morals and values at this point as to what kind of moviegoer I am, because I was really relishing it and just loving every minute of it. And I really feel that DC got this right from top to bottom. I think that every character had a justified purpose. I think that the dynamic of the relationships worked very well. And I think everybody had the timing just right. Nobody got any more time than they deserved. And it kind of worked with this, you know, kind of open-ended villain plotline, because you got these stories that were created but they really weren't finished, but it almost leaves you wanting more, you know, because we could really go anywhere with any of those characters and they would all be great developing stories. Well, except Richie.
Yeah, well, I'll give you a little bit of very positive news. We are definitely going to see what's going to happen to these characters in 2020, because the 3 films for next year's release have been announced, and one of them is called Justice League Dark Apocalypse. So I'm very curious about this, because I'm trying to say to myself, does this mean that these guys are going to take on Darkseid? I don't know. So I'm very curious where the next story is going to go, and I'm just hoping that they take the elements that made this story work and bring them into the sequel and the continuing storyline. And as far as I'm concerned, I will give this movie a 3.5 stars out of 4. Not that I didn't think that it was good. I still feel that there are still some other films in this library that are just a little bit better. This movie does have a couple of slow points, if you will, but, you know, a slow burn can always be a good thing. But I just feel that it was just not perfect. It was great. It's one of the better films in the library. It definitely capitalized on that R rating, but it was just lacking a little something. And quite frankly, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what it is.
Well, one of the things that I hovered in on when the I guess kind of the dark entities were hanging around Richie's house waiting to capture his soul.
Yeah.
I remember them also circling Batman. And for me, that would be a really great addition to the Batman storyline, because we know that deep down, Bruce Wayne is just a dark soul. He lost his parents tragically. He's kind of aimlessly been walking around, filling his life with all these very expensive toys, trying to bring meaning to his life, but really nothing satisfies him. So to see those dark entities saying to Batman, you know, hey, we're waiting for your soul, kind of gave an even darker element to Batman. So, you know, you were saying, how dark can these characters get? Man, if apocalyptic is the way to go, let me just say first and foremost, apocalyptic horror is hands down my #1 favorite type of horror to read. So I cannot wait. I personally give this 2 thumbs way the hell up because this film did everything for me. It opened my eyes to things that I wasn't prepared for. And it kind of freaked me out a little bit, which I wasn't expecting animation to do. So I think, you know, coming from someone who relishes in the world of horror, who considers herself a horror enthusiast, and I have seen a vast number of horror films, for animation to give me a fright, you've done something right.
Well, I'll also let you know, we haven't discussed this one on the channel yet, but this will be talked about in a future live show. The CW Seed, which is the online website, also has some of these animations, and they start off as a micro series, and then they take them all and they make them a movie. They did that with this animated version of Constantine, and about a year ago, they actually took all the episodes and they made the movie Constantine City of Demons. It is animated. Matt Ryan is Constantine. It's a Constantine animated story. You can find it in retail. I personally think that if you thought that Justice League was great, this one, City of Demons, it takes it and it kicks it up a notch in terms of the demons and the grotesque and the gothic themes. I think if you enjoyed Constantine in this movie, you will like his solo film. It's called Constantine City of Demons. I am going to be rewatching it next year because it is going to be a movie that I will be bringing to this live show next year, and that is a guarantee. But I'm really excited to see Constantine return in the next film, Justice League Dark Apocalypse. Very, very excited about that.
That is definitely now on my radar. And like I said, this, you know, collaboration with you has really opened my eyes up to the darker side of animation. I really didn't realize that they were getting this deep into, you know, even at the PG level, it was kind of creepy and dark. But to take it into this R rating is, I think, exactly what people our age needed, because we grew up with these fandoms, we grew up with these characters, and we've kind of always felt the presence of dark in some of these characters. Obviously, some of them were standalone villains, and you know, we knew that they were destined for darkness, but characters like Batman, who have that innate ability to carry over to the dark side for a minute, and we see that darker element of him, it's kind of nice to see him in a situation like this where he's with like-minded people and dealing with darker matter. And it really appealed to me. So I am very excited to see what DC has opened up for those 3 films in 2020. And thank you for opening up my inner 12-year-olds, because I am back in this world of animation and I can't wait to just dive in and see what else there is to offer.
Oh, I'll definitely get you up to speed on that. And I also really like the fact that you brought up the whole thing with the demons circling Batman, because I think the best part about it was that they talked about how many times he cheated death. And you're absolutely right about his inner darkness, because you reminded me of an interesting thing that I've recently discovered in the comics that I've been reading. Batman almost got recruited by the Sinestro Corps, or the Yellow Lantern Corps, because he has the ability to instill great fear. But because of the fact that Bruce Wayne has such strong will, he was able to resist the Yellow Ring's power, and he didn't become a Yellow Lantern. But the fact that he has that dark side, the fact that Sinestro was able to look and find him and say, he could be a powerful ally. That's interesting. And that's also what makes Batman such a great character. And just seeing him alongside all of these characters showed us that other side. But we're running out of time, everybody. So, Cammy, I appreciate the fact that you came to join me. I'm glad that you had a great time. When we officially go off the air tonight, I will definitely start giving you some understanding of where you need to go next. But, everybody, thank you all for watching. This will most likely be the last episode of 2019, so I'm looking forward to another year of DC animated live shows. Bryan will be back next time, and I'm sure he's looking forward to it as well. But in the meantime, everybody, have a safe Halloween, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. If you're new here and want to see more of what my channel has to offer, please click on the link to my last video, or hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all of my uploads. Content of all sorts is posted here quite often, so trust me, you do not want to fall behind. I will see you in the comments, and actions speak louder than words.